Hey, this is Matt. Once again, what about in the video? This is another paid request. This time from Benjamin. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for The Mummy Returns, a 2001 film. Now, I like the first Mummy quite a bit. It's probably my favorite Brendan Fraser film. I thought they really captured the Indiana Jones type of adventure. Jerry Goldsmith's score was wonderful. It's really a movie that you did not need sequels. It's a one and done deal. I mean, they took care of the mummy, they sent it back to where it came from, and there you go. Like, this did not need a franchise, but the film was so successful that, of course, they did. Now, The Mummy Returns is okay. It's an alright movie. There is some entertaining action sequences. There's some really nice heroic moments from Brendan Fraser, and I really like the guy. Not just as an actor, I've liked him in comedy, like Encino Man. I've liked him in dramas, and he does well in action like this. But it's sad that his career. Thankfully, I mean, it's cool. He won an Oscar, so whatever happens in the future, no one can take that away from him. And he seems like a very nice guy who got fucked over for quite a few years by Hollywood. So it's nice to see a bit of a sunshine at the end of that rainbow. So it's great to see him in this. A lot of the cast returns: Rachel Weisz, Oded Fehr, Arnold Vosloo. You do have The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. I think this is the first film he did. This is when he's trying to get out of WWF at the time and get into movies. And he would come back from time to time. But he really wanted to get his movie career jump started. So he plays a bit part here, has very few lines, and then that will lead into the Scorpion Teen movie, and Walking Tall, and The Rundown, and then those Jumanji sequels, and Journey to the Center of Earth sequel, G.I. Joe sequel, Fast and Furious sequels. He just put into a lot of sequels. He would just really put into a lot of franchises. Which, on a side note, I never. Okay, the Scorpion King is a guy, a warrior, who makes a pact that he'll give his soul to conquer his enemies, which he succeeds in having the army of Anubis, but then his soul gets taken. And then the next time you see The Rock is awful, fucking awful, atrocious, pathetic, and atrocious CGI that is not like the big joke of this movie. Like, the number one thing people remember of this film is that awful CGI Scorpion King. So I mean, it's not really much to say about The Rock. It's like him kind of saying a line or two, charging, yelling. He does a couple moves, but there's really not much. That's why I never understood why you made a movie of the Scorpion King. Just like, why are you making prequels about a guy who becomes a bad guy, gets his soul taken? So number one, it's kind of hard to root for the guy when he did this. We know what he's going to do: conquer his enemies and sell his soul to the devil, so to speak. We know where he's going. So I never understood that rationale. Never understood that, but the Strawberry Team made enough money that they did a ton of direct-to-video movies, so there you go. But yeah, the Scorpion Team I was never big on. It just felt like a lackluster Conan. So I always like Cole the Conqueror. So after that little bit of backstory, we're in the, I forget what year this takes place in. Obviously after the first film, and it's been enough time that Brendan and Rachel Weisz are a couple. They have a son. They're looking at more ruins. You think they would know better. The son finds the bracelet of Anubis. Of course, they're attacked. There's a flood. The kid in a way, gets some pillars knocked down so that his parents are saved, and you see them flying through on a body of water. The kid puts on the bracelet and attaches them and shows them this map. The bad guys come in, and we're off to the races. Proves the bad guys want the kid because he's got the bracelet that shows the map because they want to get to this area. They bring back Arnold Vosloo, the mummy, because they're going to use him to kill the Scorpion King, because if you kill the Scorpion King, then you get his army of Anubis and go from there. Now, like I said, there is still a sense of fun to the movie. Brendan Fraser, like I said, does have a lot of good heroic moments. Like early on, someone throws a knife, he grabs it, throws it right back. Let's see, there's some shotgun fun. There's some nice explosions. There's the bit where they're fighting these mummies on this double-decker bus, and the good guys are shooting holes in them, or the bus is careening towards something that cuts the whole top of the half off and fucks up that mummy. So there's some entertaining action sequences in there. But it's one of those things where, number one, the fact that we're dealing with the mummy again, I didn't feel there was enough new stuff here to warrant a sequel as much as one should think. Because we know what Arnold Vosloo can do. We know what his character can do. I did not like the fact that they put in this whole backstory where it wasn't just people in an unfortunate situation, bad luck in the first film. Apparently this is all part of some fate, this is all part of some destiny, where Brendan Fraser was a warrior back in the day, and now he's got this tattoo that I don't think we ever saw in the first movie. And now Rachel Weisz in a past life was the daughter of the teen. She was Nefertiti. Not a bunch of T's, Nefertiti. That was Rachel Weisz back in the day, and now she has these flashes, and I get that it's trying to incorporate a bit more into the characters, but I don't know, just something about that felt, I don't know, a bit forced, a bit, really? That's what's going on? It can't be just, we're at the wrong place, we're at the wrong time, we're just regular folks overcoming a crazy obstacle. No, I don't know why that bothers me so much. It just felt, I have nothing else for the story, so I'm just going to pull this out of my ass, because none of this was ever thought of in the first movie. That wasn't happenstance, they were reincarnated, they're not ordinary, they're extraordinary. Okay. It still has a sense of fun to it. Like Rachel Weisz trying to block a door, and Brendan's like, honey, these guys don't use doors. Or there's a guy they meet called Izzy who pilots because they need a pilot. They just don't realize he's piloting a blimp. And Brendan's like, Izzy, you're right. Yeah, I was? Yeah. You don't get shot. Dave's always talking about, oh my god, when I'm with you, man, I'm always getting shot. And Brendan's like, you give me a fucking blimp, I'm going to shoot you. So there are some fun moments. But at the same time, like the action scenes, I said there's some fun set pieces, but I know the first Mummy doesn't feel as wall to wall, but I felt like those action set pieces, they just felt stronger to me. I think because in this one they had a bit of a bigger budget, so they used even more CGI during these sequences. I remember at the end of the first Mummy where yes, there's CGI, but there are moments where you get like real practical of the people and the mummies fighting. And granted, there's CGI when you have that one lawn shot, great heroic moment where he's fucking up all the mummies. But that's also interspersed with real practical suits, like the one that grabs Brendan's leg and crawling up to him. You don't have as much of that physicality, that practical in this one. And then some of the actions, it just felt like a do-over of the previous one. I would say the double-decker bus scene was the best action piece in the movie. I would say that was the highlight. Again, from Brendan Fraser and Oded Fehr rescuing her, Rachel Weisz, Brendan jumping through the fire, great heroic moment, using shotgun. Oded Fehr has a Tommy gun. They're shooting all this stuff, blowing stuff up. Grab her, get on a bus. All the action bit on the bus. Oded Fehr throwing a whole fucking Tommy gun clip right into a mummy's face. Brendan Fraser shooting mummies in the face. Like, that was a highlight. But the blimp stuff is a lot of exposition and trying to talk about the backstory and where these characters come from, and then the kid. I don't give a shit about the kid. It's not like he was a bad actor, but there was that part of me that goes, we have a little kid in this, really? Granted, I mean, Dad had a little kid, and I love that movie, but it's just, I don't know. He wasn't annoying, at least. But it's like, okay, now we got a little kid joining the party. Alright. Just something about that just felt grown worthy. I don't know how else to put it. And that middle section felt a bit sluggish. It felt a bit of a stalemate. Like I said, it's just them on a balloon and the exposition and flashbacks and Nefertiti and all this stuff that honestly wasn't really that fascinating to me. The past life exposition just wasn't that interesting to me. And then there's a bit where the mummy creates a wall of water that just remind me of the wall of sand in the first movie. Like he's going to build a big wall of something with his face on it, chasing after a flying apparatus. In the first one, it was the plane and the wall of sand. Here, it's the blimp and a wall of water. So it just felt like we're doing almost the same damn thing. The pygmy stuff, I mean, that was different, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, there's a bunch of little goofy looking CGI critters, this tall, and I don't know, I'm sitting there going, okay, they're, I guess the movie is, it just didn't do anything for me. I don't know how else to put it. I didn't find it exciting. I didn't really find it that funny. It's kind of like, okay, can we get past this? I'm like, this is what we have? Pygmies? Like the little CGI. Okay. They didn't feel like much of a threat despite how they try to push it. Because they do kill a lot of people because they're so quick and it's hard to keep track of them. So they're supposed to be a threat. I get why they're a threat, but at the same time, just they just seem so goofy and silly that I just like, okay, whatever the fuck. So spoilers, Rachel Weisz gets killed, Brendan Fraser's pissed off, he goes after the mummy. The kid has an idea to get the Book of the Dead, pretty much. Gets John Hannah, Rachel Weisz's brother, they go off on their own. And we're pretty much going to split into 3 action sequences. Which, a lot of movies have done that. There are movies that have done that successfully, don't get me wrong. I mean, go back to Return of the Jedi. You have the Luke Skywalker Vader stuff, you have the attack on the Death Star, then you have the stuff on Endor. So that happens a lot, but it's just, I would say I prefer the singular focus at the end of the first Mummy. That way, if you get into the scene, you're not pulled out. Okay, let me readjust my brain to this. Oh, I'm pulled out. Let me readjust to that. It's not a big deal. I'm just saying, if people ask why I prefer the first Mummy, that's one of the reasons, of the many reasons. Rachel Weisz fights the. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention the Mummy's girlfriend. She was reincarnated, and then throughout their journey, the soul of his old girlfriend is put back into that body. A nut cinnamon. Sorry, I mispronounced that name. So her and Rachel Weisz get into a fight. And I bet there's some negatives, they give some positives. Like I said, the cast do a good job. Brendan Fraser is still humorous. He's still committed. He's still physically fit. He really put his body into it and uses physicality very well. He did a great job showcasing that heroic, comedic but heroic nature to him, just like he did in the first movie. So he's definitely a big plus. Rachel Weisz, she's given more to do fight-wise. She's not as much of a damsel in distress, so she's given a bit more to... Even when the bad guys come in the first bit of the movie, she's getting swords and standing on her own 2 feet amongst all the other people. Same thing with here. I know I didn't have a problem with her being a damsel in the first movie. I don't give a shit about that. Other people do. I don't. I'm just saying, okay, it's cool that they gave her more to do fighting-wise in this. And using size as well. Which me being a fan of Ninja Turtle, the Raphael character, using size is always a nice plus. To see that weapon utilized. Oded Fehr and his army, they're fighting the Anubis army. That was okay. And then Brendan Fraser is fighting Arnold Vosloo, which by this point, when he passes a certain bit, okay, his powers are taken away because he's supposed to fight this with no powers. That's sort of the catch-22 of it all. So I do like the fight between Brendan and Arnold Vosloo. It's nice to see them actually get into a fight, which they did not get to do in the first movie, because his character was so powerful. Here, it's nice to see a one-on-one battle. But sadly, it still gets into a stalemate, because we got to get to the third part of this three-way, of this trio. But there's some nice choreography moments, some nice... It's well shot, that fight. But then here comes the Scorpion King. And his awful garbage CGI. And that hurts the finale a bit, because I know people will see... They'll see this and go, well, that's not a good idea, Matt. But, because it's too mundane. I think it would have been much better if it was actually The Rock himself, Dwayne Johnson. He comes in, he's a big guy, he's a muscle guy, he's good at fighting, and he's fighting both of them off at the same time. Because he would get actual fight in there. The guy's a wrestler, so he knows how to do it. He could help choreograph the fight, do these moves on these guys. And you get much more of a back and forth between, and then you get like 1-on-2, and they're both trying to attack him, and then the Rock's holding them on to make the Scorpion King a bigger threat. Because, really, the Scorpion King comes off as an afterthought. It's like, oh my god, they're not going to beat him. No, that's never the case. It's more, oh, is the mummy going to find a way to kill him? It's more, the dilemma is more, is the mummy going to kill him before Brendan Fraser does? Not, or either of these two going to get killed by the Scorpion King. It's just the Scorpion King doesn't seem like a threat, and the assumption of, oh, he's so much bigger, so he must be much more tougher, doesn't seem like the case. Plus, he looks so goddamn awful that it's hard to take seriously. Even in 2001 era. So yes, I do think it would have been much better if it was actually The Rock. You gave him more to do. He's a big, intimidating figure. You have the Arnold Vosloo. He's nothing. Get in a fight and The Rock overpowers him. Shows how much of a threat he is. And then you have to worry about... You need a lot more in terms of choreography, in terms of a bigger fight. I would have much preferred that than Brendan Fraser just jumping around, avoiding this big CGI stinger with that awful looking face on the Scorpion King. He's ugly and just becomes a letdown for a final battle. Until ultimately Rachel Weisz gets the spear. You think the mummy's going to get it, but Brendan Fraser gets it, stabs into the Scorpion King, who didn't feel like much of a threat. So I know I'm being down on the movie. I don't mean to. It's just I think the film is okay because of the performances, because a few of the action set pieces, because it still has that fun adventure feel. It's just that I think there's a lot of things that make it a step down from the first one. Like I said, I think the middle portion just felt more sluggish to me, pushing these backstories of these characters and their reincarnated selves instead of just it was ordinary people in a crazy happenstance. If I guess it felt like, well, we need something for the story, so we just force it in there. Anyway, where the fuck did that tattoo come from that Brendan had? Not all the actresses worked for me. I did the body of water, just felt like the body of sand in the first one. The pygmies, I do give a rat's ass about. The Rock, the Scorpion being so fucking ugly. The music I thought was a letdown as well. It's Alan Silvestri. I think it wasn't an awful score, far, far from it. It was decent, but I thought it was a step down from Jerry Goldsmith. Because I still think of that scene when Brendan Fraser comes in to rescue Rachel Weisz and he's got the sword and just how grandiose Jerry Goldsmith's music is. But da 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 do 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 da 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 da. And that's still my favorite moment of that whole franchise. As Brendan with the sword and the great Jerry Goldsmith music and you're kicking this guy's head off and doing all this. Mummies. So, like I say, it's an okay film. It's watchable entertainment. It's definitely better than the third one. Easily better than the Tom Cruise one. The reboot. It was a movie that felt to be bigger. That doesn't necessarily make it better. That's the best way I put it. Like maybe, like the first movie, I'd probably give like 4 stars at least. This one, it'd probably be a 4 out of 5. This one probably be at best 3 out of 5. Because it is a watchable film. Like I said, the cast and the double decker sequence and some of the other stuff. There's entertainment to be had. There's no political bullshit, no pandering shit in it. It's the steepest entertainment, but it's not a favorite of mine either. So I think that the cast definitely helps soothe some of the other issues I have with the movie. And Brendan Fraser, again, it's a pleasure to see him as the lead, and that's also a big plus. I did really like him. I really liked his character. Although he didn't really have a whole lot to do in the third movie. It's not that he wasn't in it. Just I don't know. I think I don't know. There's too many issues with the third film. Even Brendan Fraser couldn't overcome it. I guess that's a better way to put it. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.